All right, we're back. It's Bad Movies Rule. We got a full house today. I'm excited to introduce you to a few new hosts. We've got an unfinished podcast, he and me.
He and I.
Don't talk to me about grammar. We're doing Scott Pilgrim. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast, know that there's been a lot of different people that we've had on the show. But when we conceived of this podcast, it was always to involve our core group of filmmaking friends. So from 2005 to 2010, we made a series of films together. It's about 5 or 6 of us. And today we don't have Clint Bush or Bob Hauser, who we've normally had on the show in the past, but we do have Kurt Mummer and Joe Gorotowski joining us. These guys have been making films with me for a long time. I'm excited to have them. How you doing, Kurt?
I'm good, sir. How are you today?
And Joe, thanks for coming, man.
Hey, man. It's great to be here. I'm extremely mediocre about this whole thing.
And also joining us is another special guest, Josh Servey. Josh, how are you doing today, brother?
Good. How you guys all doing today?
Good.
Fantastic.
Glad to have you here.
Thanks for asking.
And so today we're talking about Scott Pilgrim versus the world. And via our Zoom call here, we got Mel Vandy on with us. So we don't have to have another Vandy rant because we're going to have Vandy with us. Vandy, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. I couldn't get away from the shoe store today, so.
That's all right. If you need to help a customer at any time, just feel free to just, jump in there and do that. And
they can wait.
And today we're talking about Scott Pilgrim, and I want to preface this whole thing by saying you might be wondering why on earth is Scott Pilgrim versus the world on a podcast called Bad Movies Rule. It's got a 7.5 on IMDb. It's generally well loved by everybody, but I think it's important to define, maybe we haven't had to do this yet, that when we say a bad movie in terms of having it on our podcast, we just mean it wasn't critically acclaimed at the time that it came out. It wasn't, in the Oscar race. It's the type of movie that generally doesn't get awarded by the mainstream critic. But we love those movies, and those are the ones we're gonna talk about. And this movie actually bombed when it came out in theaters.
Yeah.
Originally, nobody. I mean, I remember going to see it, but apparently nobody else did.
I was working at a movie theater at the time this came out. It was one of the first movies that I didn't know about because I was freshly there, and I was just like surprised on how much it didn't get notarized for it, because I was like, this is like everybody's genre. It hits a lot of points.
Right. Yeah, it's great. Well, it was directed by Edgar Wright. And this was him coming right off of Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. So this was actually his first kind of mainstream movie without Simon Pegg and that whole crew doing their comedy, which are fantastic. But this was kind of Edgar's chance to make a mainstream Hollywood American movie. And it was also written by Mike Bacall, which the other thing to his credit is he wrote the 21 Jump Street movies, the newer ones with Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. And then this movie starred Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Kieran Culkin, and really... who isn't in this movie? I mean, this movie's cast is insane. I don't know, at the time they weren't as big a stars as they are now, but incredible cast, incredible director, great writer. Let's just talk, guys. And Joe, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah. Just
your general impressions of the movie. What is it you love about this film?
The fact that it feels like a video game. I don't know. And that's really what it comes down to. I've seen a lot of other films that kind of try to pull off a video game type feel, but this one has a great combination of comedy and writing and
a lot of video game movies stink, but this is not a video game movie. No. It's a movie that's a video game. I think there's a distinction.
Yeah, it was a comic book.
Yeah, right. It started off as a graphic novel.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe it was actually being written while the movie was being done. If I'm not mistaken, they were sort of coexisting.
Yeah.
And they were actually feeding off each other from what I've kind of read on it. Yeah. The comic book actually wasn't finished before the movie was finished, and the movie wasn't finished before the comic book was. So there was a lot of sort of back and forth on how it ended. So there's actually a lot of differences between not only the comic book but also from the movie itself.
Now, Kurt, did this movie grow on you, or did you love it instantly the first time you saw it?
The first time I saw it, it was definitely chuckle-worthy. There was a lot of things I liked about it, just visually. I liked a lot of the sort of cut-to scenes. I felt like a lot of that was very comic book style and comic book-esque. I enjoyed a lot of the sort of the video game sounds throughout it.
Yeah.
Sort of like you were saying, it was a movie with a video game feel. So I kind of feel... the Zelda sounds. There was a lot of comic book references in there. There was a moment where he was, Michael Cera was wearing a Fantastic Four shirt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was a lot of like little trinkets in there that I enjoyed.
I wonder if that's maybe why it didn't do well, at least upon release. It feels like it's made for a very, very specific audience. I mean, Josh, what do you think someone who'd never played a video game in their life would think when they watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Well, actually, I had to explain this to my girlfriend's daughter, who I sat down last week to watch it with her. I'm like, hey, this is like cool movie. I think you'll like it. She's almost teenager age, so it's just like trying to hit that dilemma. And so I was trying to explain to her, I'm like, kind of video gamey, kind of comic booky. It's funny. There's great music in the movie, which I don't think it gets enough nod. Like the writing of the music is pretty cool. There's beats and the riffs. Even if you're a fan of that kind of music, like it hit home. So I was just trying to tell her it's good music. It's funny, romantic. Like I said, it hits every point. Yeah. It's just like, so you can try to find one point in the movie to like. And
what'd she think of it?
We only got halfway through it because we ran out of time. So I was trying to catch back up with her when I saw her again. Because the other two can't really watch that movie yet.
Gotcha.
So we're trying to find time alone. But for the most part, she's like, yeah, it's okay. But like I said, she only got to see half of it.
Right.
And I think we ended up just after when Chris came. And he was the second ex he had to deal with. So
it's easy. I think anybody could like this movie, but if you weren't like growing up with Mario Brothers and Zelda, and I mean, even when they have that 8-bit opening of the Universal logo and all that, like it touches a nostalgia chord, I think, for guys and girls of a certain age. And so while anyone can like it, I feel like if you're in that area age-wise, you love this movie. Am I wrong?
Well, absolutely. I was just looking at some of the cast again, and one of the points that I just hit me again, the reason why I keep going back to it is because of the cast.
Yeah.
The amount of people they have in it, and it's, you got Chris Evans, Brandon, you got Brie Larson. I mean, just like, all these big name stars now. And it's so entertaining to go back and see them before they were Captain America, Superman.
We got two captains. We got Captain Marvel and Captain America.
Exactly.
Superman too.
And Superman.
Yeah. Superman. The casting
and the
director
Punisher.
got an Emmy. Yeah,
the Punisher is in this too.
Yes.
And I think that's the reason why this movie is great.
Yeah.
Not when it first came out, because these people were great, but now they have such a pull power to see them, to go back and see them at such a fresh faced.
I mean, it's also got the kid who wets the bed in Home Alone. So I mean, you got that.
You just can't see him as anybody else other than
I
that.
Can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
Just every scene he was in, did you picture him with those big glasses on and just
drinking Pepsi?
Drinking Pepsi.
Pepsi, yeah.
Do we have to pay for Pepsi now?
No.
Are we allowed to say what it?
We can talk about Pepsi.
Okay, I just wasn't sure.
So in the last film we talked about Mystery Men, as bad as that was from a filmmaking standpoint, this one is as good as that one was bad. His directing and the transitions and everything was so smooth. What'd you think, Mel?
Yeah, I think it's like they tried to drag 14 and to 30-year-old dudes into a chick flick here. Just nothing but pure pandering.
You think they were just pandering to trick us into a relationship drama?
Yes, it's just like Pearl Harbor. They tried to make it so it's like war and dude stuff, but it just wasn't. What
I will say is that from a strictly filmmaking standpoint, the pacing of this movie is awesome. I know, Kurt, when we were watching it the other day, it was like they took out all the nonsense, right? Like the movie moves at 100 miles an hour.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
any of the mundane is gone.
You gotta be 100% into it. Otherwise you miss anything. And it's like, what's going on? What? Okay.
Yeah. It was almost like Edgar was trying to cram 4 hours of a movie into 2 hours. I mean, he cut out all the fluff. All right, guys, let's dive into the story beats. I think at this point we should just get into the movie. And, as I said, it's a minute ago, this movie dives straight into the band and his relationship with Knives Chow, played by Ellen Wong. And it starts off with them just ripping him for dating this younger girl, which is funny because Ellen's like 3 or 4 years older than Michael Cera.
Yes. Yeah,
in real life. Yep. But she's great. What'd you guys think of, let's talk about the band, because that's where the movie starts. The bandmates, those characters, they're kind of overshadowed by some of the bigger names in this movie, but I thought the band was fantastic.
Yeah, like you said, it's when it comes to low budget movies and things like that, where you're like, okay, it's not easy being a band, but when you have a small band, it's 3 people. Mm-hmm. The nicknames, even the band's name was awesome. I was just like, yeah, for, after high school, it's just like, yep, just keep rocking that band name. Like,
yeah, that's the Mario Brothers influence, right? Sex Bomb. Mm-hmm. And I really like Kim. I can't remember the actress's name that plays Kim. The drummer.
Kim Pine.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And she doesn't blink the entire movie except for one time. I mean, every time the camera cuts to her, she's got just a dead stare.
Yeah,
going.
The glaze.
Yeah.
Usually staring Scott down.
Yeah, and I really like the lead singer too. He's great in this movie, and the few parts that he gets to really shine, I think he nails it. I mean, I don't know if the movie works if the band isn't.
Well, he's the talent, so he's got to shine,
So like I said, it dives straight into his relationship with Knives. And so part of the beginning of the movie is establishing the two of them dating, and they're going around doing different things there. But I thought it was good to establish their relationship. But I think it's worth asking, at least right off the bat, does Scott Pilgrim kind of suck? He's kind of a bad dude.
He is the worst.
He makes her pay to continue playing the video game, right? He is so flippant with her. She's talking about something, and he goes, oh, can we go back to when we were talking about me?
Yeah.
Right? And he kind of rips through girls with no regard, like with Kim, the drummer.
Yep.
And
he's dating an underage girl,
which he only really likes because she fangirls over him, right?
Yep.
So I guess I had to ask you guys, does Scott kind of suck?
As a character, yeah.
He is absolutely unlikable by any means. He's pretty much the villain of this entire film. I don't see why he's tried to play as the hero here. He's unemployed. He's dating a 17-year-old high schooler. He's what, mid-20s, early 30s or something?
22.
Early 30s.
Sleeps on a bed.
No,
with,
Michael
3
Cera.
other guys.
Michael Cera looked like he was maybe 30 years old in this movie, but he was only 20, playing 22. I don't know how old he really was. But yeah, he's not a great dude. And I think maybe that's done on purpose. The movie is kind of setting him up for this journey that he's going to go on of self-discovery, right? But I think it's jarring now to go back and watch this as a father of teenage girls and to see him dating this 17-year-old. Now, I have a 17-year-old daughter going, I would not want my daughter to date Scott Pilgrim.
No,
I agree.
Some band member.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's okay.
He's
I know.
Bass player,
Just not a bass player, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's fine. You got
Lead
to
singer, you're good.
Hey, Dad,
drummer.
I met this guy. He plays the flute. I'm like, great. Let's have him over for dinner right now. Tell him to bring his flute.
I don't think you could have a concert flautist that is any worse than Scott Pilgrim.
I'll take a hot oboe player. I don't care. I just don't want a bass player for my daughter. That's
right.
all. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Prove to me through your clarinet skills.
Right. We've now.
Why you deserve to date my daughter.
They put all the dishes away, and then they come back to the dinner table and go, now it's time to win my daughter's hand. You must prove to me that you know how to play the clarinet. And you just pass a clarinet to him. Well, sir, I'm an oboe player. I'm like, well,
Yep.
it was nice to meet you. All right. Well, at this point, he's dating Knives, but then he meets this girl at this party, right? And barely. Can you say they met at the party? They talked for 2 seconds. He slid awkwardly down the wall and told her apparently the only anecdote that he knows to talk to girls about, which is the Pac-Man story.
Yep.
Puck-Man.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
He has one anecdote.
He's got to work it.
That's all you need.
Yeah, you need one good one maybe, but it's not even.
How's it working?
It's so far he's hitting 500. He's 1 for 2 because it didn't work with Ramona at all. And
well, maybe it set up his living situation in that apartment. Can we go back and talk about that real quick with Macaulay Culkin's little brother?
I'm very interested to hear what you thought about his living situation.
It just seems a little weird if you ask me, but I guess, when you don't have a job and you play bass part-time in a band and, hang out with 17-year-olds.
Mel, how much money did you have when you were 22 years old?
I had $178.96.
So enough to buy a large pizza and pay your insurance bill?
Yes, but not to be a casual onlooker from about 2 feet away in a bed full of dudes.
That's fair, but the guy did live across the street from mom and dad, right? I think maybe that was why.
Correct.
Which
that makes sense.
was a great joke in the movie. It was almost like a Spaceballs joke, right? you remember the Spaceballs joke where he says, "No more beaming. This time I'm going to walk," and they just turns around and there it's
the
kind
next door.
The same joke.
It is.
All right. So Scott now he sees Ramona at this hipster party, which I love how much this movie makes fun of hipsters. I mean, they're ripping on hipsters all the time. They've always got these little throwaway lines. Well, you'd love them live. You should see them live after they just watch them live, right?
Yep.
Or they walk in and one scene, the guy's like, "Oh, the comic book's way better than the movie."
Yeah.
Which is kind of supposed to be a joke because that, but it's just these stupid hipsters. I love that this movie is taking their shots at him. But after he meets Ramona at this party, Scott starts being even worse to Knives in their relationship.
Yeah, because he realizes he wants to be with Ramona, right?
Because she's the flavor of the week, essentially, right? And he's like, they from a filmmaking standpoint, they're playing the Ninja video game, right? Mm-hmm. And Scott is clearly not into it. And it gets to the continue screen, and it's counting down the continue screen like at the old arcades. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Should we keep going?" And it's like 5, 4, 3. And he's like wanting to break up with her at that moment. It was like the continue screen was for their relationship.
Down, for him wanting to break up with her, right?
Right? That kind of, the little touches like that I love in this movie. So Josh, Scott has a lot of what I call waking hallucinations.
Good question. I guess I never looked at it that way. I always thought it was daydreaming, as if they tried to, like you said, when everything was just so going so fast. Mm-hmm. So I guess they try to kind of in the way of Scott, where it's just like, hey, when he wasn't with Ramona, he was thinking about her or daydream about her, didn't care about what was going on around him. Yeah, it was just her, and because I think he even said it, she's a woman of my dreams. Right. I saw her skating towards me, and I, got up, and there she was, type thing. So
I get why he likes her, but what do you think? What is it that Ramona sees in Scott Pilgrim? I mean, because so far all we've seen is him just be terrible.
Well, I think she kind of made it clear in the movie. She said he was a nice guy, and that's not what she's used to dating. So, I mean, if you compare it to all the exes, he didn't seem as big of a DB as the rest of them. You know what I mean? Arrogant.
I guess.
But I do get what you're saying.
So what you're saying is, based on her past dating history, Scott had a real low bar to clear.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's not really a compliment.
Right on that one.
Yeah. That's not really a compliment for Scott.
No, it's not.
It's like being the best of the worst.
Right.
Yeah.
So eventually she's going to leave Scott for an actual nice guy.
Sure.
Probably. I mean,
right? I mean, this relationship doesn't last, does it?
I would say no. I mean, I think the sequel was going to be Scott Pilgrim versus the Eighth. I think that's what was going to end up.
He was going to be the Eighth.
Yeah,
he was at the end.
Scott Pilgrim. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
so right. He was, and then he was like, he was a real nice guy. Yeah.
Right.
He
so
met himself. Yeah.
Whoever the number 9 boyfriend is, that should be the sequel, where it's the 9th guy having to fight all the exes again, and at the end fights Michael Cera.
So I guess then, I guess mathematically, I should have said Scott Pilgrim versus the 9th.
Scott Pilgrim versus the 9th. Right, there you go.
Right.
I think he might have had well, we don't ever see him doing drugs. Maybe, I mean, he's in a band. He's a bass player.
It could be a head injury.
It could be.
Well, his hair is all messed up, and he always wears a hat. He's always freaking out about his hair. Maybe
that's true.
He had some hair, some scars on his head that would screw up his hair from a head injury. I don't know. I'm just reaching.
That's a very viable option.
I'm reaching here.
So let's get into the best part of this movie. Now, Edgar Wright had said in an interview that he laid this movie out like a musical, except instead of breaking into song, they broke into fights. Right. Yep. So let's go to fight number 1. Let's break down these fights. Okay. So the first fight was against Matthew Patel. What did you guys think about?
Pirate.
Yeah. Yep. You beat me to it.
Patel the pirate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now
the Bali pirate.
The Bali pirate. What did you guys think of Matthew from a fighting standpoint?
I thought it was fun. I mean, it kind of started off. I kind of feel like each fight got more intense, I guess, not necessarily in the sense of more action.
Yeah.
But it was more harder for Scott Pilgrim to advance to the next X.
Right.
So I think from a standpoint of him being the first X, it was a good fight.
Because
it was a fun fight.
He's in no way threatening.
No.
At all.
No.
I mean, if you saw Matthew Patel jump through the window flying at you with a karate kick, Joe.
Yeah.
Are you scared?
No.
Right.
I would be wondering if an Abercrombie and Finch closed down or something. That's really what's about it. He was the most unforgettable, or the most forgettable,
right,
of the exes to fight.
Josh? Did you ever play Mike Tyson's Punch Out?
I did not.
Okay,
I wasn't a big boxing game fan.
There was a guy in Mike Tyson's Punch Out called Glass Joe, and I feel like Matthew Patel is the Glass Joe of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Right, he's the first guy you fight.
Isn't that how always the first boss works? Is
right.
like their entrance, the build up to the first boss is just like you get excited for it, and then evidently like you can't lose to them.
No.
Like you got to beat them anyway. So it's just like they make it too easy.
Right. I could dust off a Nintendo, put Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Well, you have to blow on the cartridge first. Mm-hmm. Put it in, hand a controller to my 3-year-old nephew, and he would beat Glass Joe, I think, on his first try.
I was going to say, when we first watched the movie, I think you and I were comparing it to Mega Man, and I said like he's like Bubble Man. He's like the first guy that you fight, and you just got to get through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The tutorial.
It's the tutorial level.
Yes.
And it is the tutorial because he even has to explain to Scott about the evil exes, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't you read my email?
I skimmed it.
That made
Here's
him
the
furious.
question.
Yeah.
Does that 46 punch combo even count since it didn't say fight until after that?
I think it counts. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I thought the fight was way too late in that first scene. Like they had already been fighting. Just from a gaming standpoint, I know it's a nitpicky nerd thing, but yeah, that came too late. I do like, from a comedy standpoint, the sharp left turn that the thing takes when he busts into a Bollywood dance with these demon hipster chicks. Mm-hmm. I just remember sitting back going, "What is happening in this movie right now?"
Right. That was one time I was just like, I don't know about this anymore, but you need a curveball.
They forgot to change that part from the musical.
Yeah. Right. He kept that's the one part that survived the musical version of Scott Pilgrim. But I think it was a good appetizer to what was to come, ultimately. Scott defeated him handily, right? So it wasn't even much of a challenge for him. And now in between all the fights, we get these little glimpses into Ramona and Scott's budding relationship, right? And so after the first fight, they have their garlic bread date, right? Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember?
Garlic press.
Was like... He made garlic bread. I think it was all it was just garlic bread, right?
It's garlic bread. Yeah.
Do you guys remember the first time you cooked for a girl?
I think I might have made spaghetti. I think that was the first thing I might have made.
Okay.
Because it was just, how hard is it to get some sauce, fry up some meat?
You're way beyond Scott Pilgrim.
Think so? Yeah.
And what I mean,
homemade spaghetti sauce?
Yeah.
That's next level.
The first time I think I made a bowl of cereal for both of us.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, hey, I made dinner here, right? I mean, it was like,
What kind?
Oh, probably like Captain Crunch, the peanut butter crunch was my go-to cereal. So come on.
That's the way to shy off a date. Just here, scar up the roof of your mouth. Enjoy this.
We didn't stay together for long, okay? But I don't think it was my cooking.
Captain Crunch. That's why you don't do that on a first date.
And all this time I thought it was
No,
me.
it's the Captain Crunch, buddy.
See, what could have happened?
With Scott Pilgrim's dating record, I'm surprised he didn't go with a Happy Meal.
Josh, do you remember the first time you tried to cook for somebody?
I don't know. I actually enjoy cooking. So I've been probably since I was in the 20s, I was usually doing the cooking for the family when we had family come over and grilling and stuff. So try to help out when I can. I just didn't want to clean up. Yeah.
So from a dating coaching standpoint, what would you give Scott on his first date dinner of garlic bread?
I think he fails anything and everything he ever does when it comes to the dating world. Because I think the first date he was late.
It's pretty obvious.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and then the garlic bread thing.
Yeah,
it gives the rest of us hope, though. If the fact that he is so horrible, but yet somehow he pulls it off.
It's also Toronto.
I was going to say, does it matter that it's based in Canada?
Maybe this all starting to come together. He has such a low bar to clear because the pickings are slim in that area, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when he's the top of the heap and he's making garlic bread for dinner and not showing up on time to dates, and she's like, "You're the best boyfriend I ever had." Yeah. Toronto's, that's rough.
It's like that one girl that goes to engineer school, just completely outnumbered. It's usually like 20-1.
That's true. Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's a good point. All right, so I've been waiting all episode to get into fight number 2.
Yes.
With the first time we see Chris Evans as Lucas Lee is in a little mini commercial for one of his movies. And I I want to see this movie.
That's exactly how I feel. Same way. I'm just like, who doesn't want to see this movie? Like, they got to do like a sidetrack, and
Right.
Like a spinoff.
yeah.
And have him play Lucas Lee playing when the first click you hear is me hanging up. The second click is me pulling the trigger. I mean, I would watch today. I would go to the movie theater and watch that movie.
Even if it was just a short, like they should just do a short.
Honestly, and he still loves the movie. I mean, Chris talks about Scott Pilgrim. They did a 10-year anniversary last year where they all came together and reread the script, and
He showed up.
and man, he didn't have to. He's a megastar.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, Anna, everybody did except for one person. I
Yeah.
can't remember. They didn't make it, and
Right.
because I listened to the thing too. I think driving home from work, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool. Anna Kendrick came back. Bree was there.
Yeah.
He was there for his short part, but then when he was done, he left. Bill Hader.
That's right.
He was the one that didn't make it. He's the one that did all the voicing
Yep.
for the movie.
Right. And this was 2 years before Captain America comes out. So right after Chris Evans blew up pretty much right after Scott Pilgrim came
Yes.
out. This was kind of the end of he had done a lot of like smaller action movies and kind of was more like a comedic guy, like in The Losers and things like that. And this was like the tail end of that before he exploded. He was fantastic in this movie as Lucas Lee. In the one scene he was in, he was going for it 150%
Yeah.
the entire time.
Like he
I
was
love the,
going for the Emmy. Like
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, he's like, oh yeah, he said, I'm going for the Oscar this
Yeah,
year,
that's
right?
what-
Yeah. Yeah, he was going for the Oscar in this, although they'd never give an Oscar to a movie like this, which is part of what I hate about the Oscars. He was totally going for it. And there's no way Scott Pilgrim beats him conventionally, right?
No, of course not.
I mean, he was taking him apart.
Yeah, well, and I think he recognized that. I think that's part of the reason why he was like, I got this. I got an idea. I'm going to see if this works.
Yeah.
And then had him do a sweet trick all the way down an icy rail that are 3 stories tall.
How much was he worth at the end?
And the rails are garbage. Huh?
Yeah.
I think he was 2,000.
Was it
Yeah.
2000?
Yeah.
Right, because he was more each time, which he should have been worth more than that.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, but he almost lands the trick. I mean, he's cooking him all the way down the rails. But to Scott's credit, he did beat up his entire stunt team.
Yes.
That's true. That's what was there, like 8 or 9 guys?
It's like 8 or 9 guys. Yeah. And so that was, and apparently some of those guys were actually Chris Evans stunt doubles that he's used in his movies
Really?
and stuff. Yes,
Oh, that's
from what I
fantastic.
read. So that's why some of them look like Chris and some of them didn't. But he was great. And following up this fight, Scott is still not broken up with knives. He's still avoiding her. And we talked about this when we watched it, Kurt. There's moments in this movie where there's still some really broad humor, right? We talked about the Spaceballs joke. When Scott just dives through the window,
and then he comes back for his coat.
He just left.
that's like airplane level zaniness.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fact that he can weave that stuff in and he set up this tone within this movie where we're okay with that kind of nonsense speaks to the world building that the director did when they put this stuff together, which was really impressive to me.
I enjoyed a lot of the humor through that.
It's the best scene to make a meme out of.
We should make one right now. What would cause you, who would have to be at the door for you to just dive out the window like that? Kurt, your girlfriend from sophomore year shows up at your house
I'm out the window.
with a 23-year-old standing next to her.
No coat. I'm out.
Oh my
I don't
goodness.
even come back and grab the coat.
No, you're just dipping.
I'm gone.
Middle of winter in Toronto. Don't need it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I'd rather freeze.
And so after he dives out the window, we get a little bit of a sneak peek at X number 4, where Roxy shows up to fight with him, and Scott, which I'm amazed he did, convinced her to leave him alone until later on in the movie. She shows up for 2 seconds. And then right after that, we're into the clash at Demon Head, fight number 3. And I'll know what you guys think, but for me, for my money, from the point where they get to the venue for the clash at Demon Head to the point where that fight ends is the best scene in the entire movie. To me. Yeah. The music is awesome. And I know this is a video game. Video games are the touch point of this movie, but I love how important music is to this film. And I know you mentioned it at the beginning. The music is actually great in this scene.
So sad.
Correct. No, and that's one thing you always bring up. They're like, how important music is in movies general.
Yeah.
Like, what would Jaws be without that soundtrack? What, can't think of a couple more off the top of my head, but that's the first one.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Sharknado.
What? I think whoever wrote the music for Sharknado like composed it in a free web program they had.
I've always liked Guardians of the Galaxy. Their soundtrack.
Oh, the music
was
for
good.
that is another one. You were going to say something, Joe.
Even video games. I mean, look at the soundtracks, and some of the best video games there out there. I mean, the soundtrack really make it or break it.
It can. Yep.
And I'm a little bummed. The song that Brie Larson sings, and she did the vocals in that part, is not available anywhere. Nope. The song that's on the soundtrack is by the band that wrote the song. You can't get Brie Larson's version of it. So
on YouTube,
we need to start something going on the internet. Maybe she'll,
because re-recorded or if they didn't record the whole song, maybe that's why they never released it.
Maybe.
But man,
I'll give her a call. I have her.
Speed
you?
dial.
Yeah.
The fact that this scene focuses so heavily on the music of not just the clash at Demon Head, right? But in the base battle that they have, like him and Todd when they start fighting, right?
Right.
I mean, it's all fantastic. I think it raises the movie to another level, personally.
Well, even it brings the band further. If you go back the first time they had their first battle with Crash and the Boys,
Yeah.
like when they're like their 2-second song that they played, and then the one guy yells like, "It's not a race," and then they played the next song, and you're like, that second song was 30 times better than the first one, and they're probably not going to win this battle now. Like,
Right.
it was great.
It was great. How'd that first song go? I don't remember.
Yeah,
It's called I'm So
sad. Yeah.
I'm so sad. And that was the whole thing, right?
That was it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've actually heard remixes of that. It's actually really good.
Todd is, to me, the only character that rivals Chris Evans in this movie. Brandon Routh, former Superman, who, not to get in on this podcast, but got robbed of another opportunity to play Superman. I thought he should have. He was great in the part. He's a vegan in this movie, and I love the fact that they because vegans always want to have this idea of superiority, right?
No, that's what I saw. Yeah.
And so the fact that he's better than you because he's a vegan and he gets special vegan powers, right? I mean, because a vegan can't go 5 minutes without telling somebody they're a vegan in real life, right?
Right.
And so this, I was so much in love with this decision to make him a douchey vegan. I thought it was one of the best parts of the entire movie. And of course, being a vegan, as he said, just makes you better than everybody else. You don't get special vegan powers, but you should, right? Because if you did, then everybody would become a vegan. So if you really want people to jump on the vegan train,
That's the way to do it.
that's the way to do it.
Offer up some superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
Would you be a vegan if you had the powers that Todd had in this movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like bacon too much.
I can't do it. If they would literally knock on my door the next day.
You do get 3 strikes, so you'd have it for like maybe 4 hours.
It'd be a hell of a 4 hours. I didn't say how long
God,
I
I got
wanted
the
to be
meat
vegan.
sweats.
That's right. When Thomas Jane and the vegan police show up to arrest him, I mean, they are driving a little smart car, right?
Well, this even kind of throws back to what you were saying about like airplane humor. I mean, they literally bust through the wall and they're like, freeze, vegan police.
with their fingers.
With their fingers, with lasers coming out of it.
Yeah.
What's not to love about this? So I've got to ask this question because moments like he kicks people, they turn into coins. We get vegan police showing up with lights coming out of their fingers. This movie has set in some kind of reality of some, like, is this, are they actually inside a video game? What is the universe that this movie is set in?
No, it's Toronto.
But it can't be real life Toronto because people don't explode into coins.
I don't know. I don't live in Toronto.
Have you been in Toronto?
I'm
fairly sure that people explode in coins in Toronto. I mean, that's just the thing.
This is how Canada is?
Yeah.
No, just Toronto.
All of
Except the
Canada.
loonies and toonies.
So all of Canada is totally normal like the United States, but Toronto is like a weird video game land?
Yeah, only Toronto.
Yeah.
I want to just go and uppercut somebody and see if they turn into a pile of coins.
All right. So Scott.
All right. Moving it.
All right. So Scott then, after the clash at Demon Head, with the clash at Demon Head, Scott's starting to get pretty upset, and he starts drinking, and he starts being an even bigger jerk, which I didn't know was possible. And him and Ramona are getting into an argument when ex number 4, Roxy, shows up. Now, Roxy has a really interesting fighting style, and I thought the coolest weapon out of all of the exes. It was like a whip sword.
It's like a lesbian belt of death.
Yes. A Hot Topic belt of death.
And then Ramona pulls out a hammer from her hammer space inside of her purse.
Yep.
And they have this awesome fight. I really like this fight.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Why does Ramona just suddenly step in now to help him fight, and she'd just been sitting on her hands for the last 3?
I think at this point she cares about him.
But not until this point.
Right.
Or she's
think
just
she
starting
was just
to.
kind of, I think there was a moment where it was just kind of like, well, I don't know if this is going to work out with this guy.
Okay.
And I think this is the point at which she turns and starts to actually care about him. So that's why she jumps in the battle.
Well, this may be one of the nicest things he took a stand with. He's like, I can't hit girls.
Right.
You
So
know?
she starts essentially puppet boxing with Scott.
But he's been so terrible up to this point, but this is the first time he's actually shown some decency.
Well, it's nice to know Scott has a line he won't cross.
Exactly. That's what
Just
it's like.
one.
Just one. I'll gaslight a girl and string her along and
That's fine.
Treat her like garbage, but I'm not at
Underage.
least
Ex number 3 wasn't afraid to hit a girl.
no, he's a rock star.
That's right. I think it was at that point too we started realizing the numbers,
Yeah.
Periodically through.
Right, Edgar would
Right.
put the numbers into these scenes so you
Know who was coming up next.
could count down to the X's, right? Yeah. And here's what I'll say as we go into number 5 and 6. I was a little disappointed in how they chose to do this. I feel like at this point
I agree.
they'd had all these awesome fights, and it's almost like they were trying to fast forward to get to Gideon at number 7.
I think that's exactly what it was.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, they ran out of time.
They were like,
a 2-hour-long movie, so
it wasn't really a fight. I mean, I love, like we talked about, I love the music, and that was really cool. But it was essentially a Yeti made out of sound fighting these 2 dragons, and they never actually fought. I don't know. I just didn't love it.
Oh, really? I thought it was pretty cool. It was just something different in a fight. When you look at a video game, you can't fight the same guy the same way. So you got to come with something different and learn a new move. And
they could have done that, but I think at some point, I just wanted to see another fight. I would have preferred. It would have been maybe cool to do a 2-on-1. I think it's funny that she dated these twins, and to have twins show up to fight Scott. Scott could have been. Because he's been like more and more exacerbated as you go through this, like, oh, seriously, another one?
Yeah.
And then if twins showed up and he had to fight 2 people, then he could be even more like, are you kidding me?
After we saw it, I was thinking about what you were saying. Because I was like, it'd almost be cool if they could have worn it like a suit.
Oh.
Like if the Yeti would have been around Scott Pilgrim, and then the 2 dragons would have been the twins. And then they fought while the, drawing of... Because you know how it was kind of like an electrical drawing?
So like a mech fight, but with sound.
Right. So then it would have been kind of more of a, they were battling each other.
Sure.
And I think there would have been a really cool scene. Again, another great fight had we seen him sort of battling off 2 guys instead of them just falling asleep next to him in the bed.
Yeah, I think what happened there was...
That should have been the fight when he had to fight 2 dudes where Kieran came in and helped him. All of his friends came in and helped him at some point.
Yeah.
Except for his roommate.
All right.
Yes.
That would have been the fight for him to show up.
I think so.
Oh, his roommate took on 2 dudes pretty much throughout the movie.
It was good, though. I think the main reason why they didn't do that, Kurt, was just simply the budget.
No, yeah.
I think most of the special effects went to Aubrey Plaza, with all just bleeping her all her F-bombs.
Yes. And
it took up a lot of the
And the black bar space.
Yeah, that took up a lot of
you gotta remember too, I don't think that was writing. I think that was all her. I think she was just adding that every time.
That's her improv?
That was just her improv in the show, and I think she almost stole half that movie. It was just her being her.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't acting. She was just being her.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I love her on Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Was Parks and Rec a thing yet in 2010? Or maybe
I don't think so.
Just starting.
I think maybe The Office was starting to get popular.
Yeah.
Okay. But even if it was a thing, it had just started, and she wasn't very popular yet. But,
No.
That black bar technology, not easy to do in 2010.
No.
I mean, that was a great expense every time they did that. And they said, no, well, now we can't do the fight. We just have to have this effects-laden Yeti dragon fight.
One thing to definitely bring up, though, is so think about this later on, but the Kayanagi twins. So it turns out she was cheating on both of them with each other. So she's got no room to talk in the whole morals department.
Well, unless the brothers knew about it.
I mean, if it was
they found out. If you go back to the lore, they found out and they ended up both dumping her. But they kind of went their separate ways amicably.
Right.
Oh, look at Mel digging into the lore of Scott Pilgrim. That's something I didn't know. Well, then, yeah, she can't. No wonder she lets him off the hook at the end with the knives thing. That makes a whole lot more sense now. And if you guys could do us a favor, would you please, wherever you're finding our podcast, be it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon or Google or anywhere, leave us a review. It would really help us out if you leave us a 5-star review. Tell people about what you think about the podcast. And if you'd like to interact with the show, we want to hear from you guys. So you can email us at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com and hit us up there. Suggest a movie. We also have a Facebook page we'd love for you to follow. Chat with us on there. It's facebook.com/badmoviesrule. Otherwise, you can find us right here again next Friday with Cool as Ice. We're going to release a new episode every week. Tell a friend. We love that you guys have joined us, and we hope you enjoy this episode about Scott Pilgrim versus the world. After this, we go into fight number 7, and Gideon shows up. Now, all the movies we've talked about, this is the one where the main villain shows up the latest in the film. I mean, it's like the last 20 minutes before Jason Schwartzman's character shows up.
Yep.
And man, does he play a great sleazeball.
Yes.
When the first scene where he signs them to the record deal out by the car, when his band sells him out and they're all signing the paper, right? When he's trying to take a moral stand, Scott's trying to take a moral stand, they're just like, yoink, let me get that and sign it. And young Neil's suddenly got his bass guitar with him, right? And Schwartzman is like, he's being really nice and everything he's saying is really nice, but he's doing it in such a, I don't know.
He makes such a great sleazeball. I love that guy. He's just such a jerk.
Yeah,
he makes a great jerk.
Some people are just so good at being bad guys.
Yeah.
Even just how he slides in the car at the end of that scene after he's like, right? I'm like, dude, even his physicality, his movements, that's good acting.
I mean, swallowing the gum at the end, when he's like, you made me swallow my gum.
It's going to be in my digestive tract for 7 years.
I mean, a great character.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we saw more of him in it.
That's what I'm saying. He was so late in. And I think he's right up there with some of the other bad guys. I mean, he's definitely better than, in my opinion, Casanova Frankenstein in Mystery Men. I think he's better than General Suter was in Suburban Commando. I think at some point after we've got maybe 20 or 25 episodes, we should go back and rank all the bad guys that we've done so far up to this point, because I think him and Raul Julia, I think in Street Fighter would probably be the two best. He just should have been in it more. When Scott shows up at the club to fight him, the frickin' passwords get me every time.
Yes.
When he's like, the first password, what was the first password? He goes, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, go in.
Because
Because again, these are shots at hipsters, man, that the writer's taking.
I thought the first one was, I don't know. And they're like, okay, you're in. And then he's like, whatever. It was
Right.
the second one, and they're like,
yeah, he comes in, and the second time he comes through, password. And they're like, yep. And it's like all he did was just like grunt, right? And man, that stuff is the little things like that take this from being a good movie into a movie I'll watch again and again and again and again. And then the fight itself, really great. I mean, he gets a little tag team help from Knives and from Ramona, but ultimately defeats Gideon, and then Nega Scott shows up.
That's right.
And you think there's going to be another big fight, which I think would have been cool to have them fight each other, but it also is pretty funny that they just immediately are best buds.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, he's the ultimate nice guy. So even evil Scott is a nice guy. And I enjoy that they kind of played off of that because, like you said, when he showed up and he was just like...
Yeah.
Or is it the fact that Scott's such a horrible person, his opposite is actually a nice guy?
Nicer guy?
Oh, if that's Nega Scott, like the photo negative, essentially, of him,
It's like
that's why he's such a cool dude.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like Negaduck from
Ramona should have
Launchpad McQuack and Darkwing Duck.
Ramona should have dated Nega Scott. I'll say it now. That's how the movie should have
That's
ended.
how it should have ended.
Or knives.
Or not. So the original ending of the movie, he went with knives.
Right.
And they had shot that ending, and then after testing it, it didn't do well, and they went back and reshot it.
Yeah.
And the actress, Ellen Wong, actually they thought that she was going to be upset when they reached out to her to say, we're changing the ending. She was like, oh, thank goodness, because I thought it was weird the way that it ended.
Yeah.
How would you have felt like that if he had ended up with knives at the end instead of Ramona?
It wouldn't have had the same punch.
No. He was fighting for her all along. I think she said it at the end of the movie. Like, she's the one you've been fighting for all this time. Why?
Right.
She's like, I'll be all right.
It would have been a letdown.
I think they made ultimately the right
I
decision.
think by far Knives is a way better fighter than Ramona.
Yeah, can we take a second to just shower Ellen Wong with praise? She was great in this movie.
Yeah.
And I actually like her more than Ramona.
Again, with the spinoffs, I would love to see a movie based on that character.
Yeah.
I think that would on Knives. I think that would have been a great, spinoff.
Yeah.
Along the lines of just even like we were talking about Chris Evans.
Right. And she looks the same age today. I mean, we saw her at that cast reunion, and she has not changed at all. They could do a Knives Chow movie tomorrow, and it would look like it came out in 2011. Except everybody else would be older. Scott looks now like he's 45 years
Chris
old.
still looks pretty good.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't have to have them necessarily in the Knives movie.
Oh, he'd be great. Yeah.
She could just do her own thing.
Be awesome.
Now, I mean, these characters technically died. So, I mean, did they die? Fake die?
Well, that's what I was trying to ask earlier about
they turned into coins.
The universe that this takes place in. Did Scott kill these people?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
We go back to Scott really didn't kill any of them other than the first one.
Right, but I mean...
So they killed themselves?
Well, right, but are they dead?
Right, so that's ultimately the question.
Yeah.
Is in that universe...
This...
If Fast and the Furious can get away with it, I think Scott Pilgrim universe can get away with it.
If Han comes back, then anybody can come back.
Well, even Rodriguez's character.
That's right. She's like, oh, I kind of want to be in the next one. Can you just... Yeah. Oh, okay.
I can't make 5, but I can be in 6.
Sign me up for 7.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Those are just the Canadian fines.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Real quick before we get into the awards. The overall message of the film, which is this idea that self-respect won the day instead of fighting for love, right? That for Scott, the fact that he loved Ramona wasn't the important thing. It was that he loved himself was when he actually defeated the bad guy and won. And I actually think this is a fantastic message.
100%.
Because at least in like the people that I work with and the students that I work with, I try and talk about this all the time, where most of the time we're seeking something in a relationship to fix us, right? Like we don't love ourselves, so we're chasing after love with another person, right? And that person's going to make us feel complete. And ultimately, you're kind of doomed to be successful in a relationship if you're not already good with yourself first, right? That's where the work.
For that approval.
Yeah.
From somebody else, right?
And if you're not fully okay with yourself and in a good spot with as far as like self-respect and self-love goes, you're never going to get that from another person.
Correct.
And so from that standpoint, I loved the message of this movie.
Correct. 100%.
Well, and I feel, again, back to Nega Scott, I think ultimately is symbolic because he was fine with himself at the end of the movie.
Right.
So it's almost like he made amends with himself.
Yeah.
And then was like, no, he ended up being a really nice guy.
That's why it's great. Yeah. When he says, I want to fight you for me. Right. And then Scott has earned the power of self-respect. And I'm like,
pulls a sword straight out of his chest.
Most movies don't go that way. It's all about fighting for love and all these things, which is good and all well and good. That's nothing wrong with that. But yourself first, right?
Sure.
I was like, man, it was so refreshing to me that was in there.
I think it's a deeper message that you don't necessarily get right away unless...
No, I didn't get it till like the 5th time I saw this movie, right? When I was just like...
I saw it the first time and I was just like, all right, great. It's a good movie. But then, it was us watching it the other night that I was kind of like, oh, there's a little bit of a message behind this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's get into our awards, guys. Every movie, generally we talk about bad movies that did not get any awards from the people that give out the quote unquote real awards. We're going to give some flowers to these films. And so the first thing we're going to do is give out the coveted Will Patton Award for the smaller role where an actor was just absolutely bringing the heat in the little bit of time they had. So for you guys, and I don't know who wants to go first, whoever wants to go first, feel free to jump in. I know there were some bit players in this movie that we didn't even really get a chance to talk about that much. I know we touched on Aubrey Plaza at the end, but like Anna Kendrick was awesome. And a lot of the other smaller parts in this, and a lot of the other smaller parts in this movie, this is going to be a hard one to pick, I think, is all I'm trying to say, because there's a lot of people bringing heat in this movie. What do you got, Josh?
Well, I was going to say, does it have to be a character? Can it be the casting director of this movie? Because
go for it.
Yeah, that'd probably be my just unsung hero, the casting director, because we mentioned it several times. It's like we would like to see more of these characters in a spinoff or something else. So when you have a movie like this, like you said, low budget, like nobody really has a big name yet. Maybe the director you might have heard of, but when you can just continue character with a new character, continue that character, like that's something you want in a movie. And when you can reflect to that character, like how can you, and you have so many of them, that's something that's got to be acknowledged.
I agree 100%. How about you, Kurt?
Well, and I didn't know if Knives really was, I mean, she was definitely a main character, but I really liked what she ended up, for somebody who I never knew, because I think that's the only movie, honestly, I've ever seen her in. Mm-hmm. I just thought she was great. I really wanted to see more of her.
I think Ellen Wong's eligible for this award. I think she's in it just a small enough amount where she'd be eligible. That's a good choice. How about for you, Joe?
It's tough.
It is. It's hard for this one.
I'm looking through the cast right now, and every time I look at somebody, I'm like, oh, I really like their part. Oh no, I really like their part. Ellen Wong, obviously, I think is near the top here.
Yeah.
Anything that does. To be honest with you, Aubrey Plaza, for some reason, her small little bit role stood out. It was just her personality. Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Singing the song. I mean,
when she's affecting that voice too, right? Which she kind of drops at the end when he calls her Natalie.
Right.
She goes back to her regular voice, which kind of shows you she'd been kind of putting on an act. Yeah. That's great stuff from Brie.
It was. So I don't know.
So you're gonna go Brie Larson?
If you're gonna have,
I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire.
Literally.
Light it up.
Okay. If I have a gun to my head, it's gonna be Ellen Wong.
Ellen Wong. All right, that's two for Ellen Wong. So,
what about you?
For me, I don't know how to not give this to Chris Evans. I mean, he's basically in one scene.
He would be my pick if it wasn't picking the director.
Right.
I cheated. Get to pick everybody.
Yeah. Chris, I'm laughing just thinking about this, man. Chris is so, and I feel like people have forgotten over the last 10 years how funny of a guy he is, because he's been playing a very stoic character famously in these movies. He's hilarious.
What, he starred in, was it Not Another Teen Movie?
Yep.
Like, that's the first time I seen him. And I thought he was hilarious, man.
Yeah, he was what, the jock in that?
Yeah. Like, he was great. That movie was, anyways, we're not doing that movie, but.
Someday we might.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's great. And even when he was playing Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four, he was funny. And The Losers, he was funny in that. And I want to see more comedy from Chris Evans. I hope now that he's come out of the Marvel machine that he's going to get more opportunities to do that, because he's great.
I agree with you. I think it'd be a really fun thing to see.
Yeah. So guys, we're going to talk now about our top 3 performances. So I'll start us off on this one, but it really, and so Joe, we'll have you go last, because I know this is really hard for you, because you want to rank everybody in the top 3, but we can't do that. So the people that you feel like if you had to rank, these were the top 3 performances in the entire movie. And I actually just switched it from what I had down, because the more we talked about it, the more this changed me. So I'm going to go number 3. I had Ellen Wong. I thought, just like you guys said, fantastic and totally underrated in this movie. Number 2 is Brandon Routh, Todd, the bass player from The Clash at Demon Head. Almost everything that came out of his mouth was hilarious. I mean, he didn't have one miss. he was 10 for 10 from the field. If he's like the guy that came off the bench in a basketball game and then didn't miss a shot.
I also don't feel like that's his thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, what has he ever been in a comedy? I mean, is he? And it's like,
yeah,
I would love to see that. That's another one I would like to see.
Also, his Ray Palmer character is pretty funny though too.
Is that the DC
yeah now I can't think of
Legends
it.
of Tomorrow?
That's it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and so then at number 1 I've got Chris Evans. So I've got Chris Evans, Brandon Routh, and Ellen Wong as my top 3. I will give an honorable mention to Michael Cera. Now, he's not my favorite actor, but here's the one prop I want to give him, even though he didn't make my top 3. He's totally sold the physicality of the fights as Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
And without him doing that, I don't think the movie works at all.
No.
He brought the awkwardness
Yeah.
that made that character.
I'm going to give him his props for that. Not a top 3 for me, but I think he sold it, and I think that's what makes it work. How about you, Josh? Who are your top 3?
I'd hate to copy you, so I might come up with something a little different, but
That's fine.
Those 3 are pretty hard to beat, even in that order.
Yeah.
So maybe another honorable mention would be, I can't think of her name now, but she was the drummer.
Oh, Kim.
Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you said, she kind of stole the show every time, and she didn't say much. It was always that look of, I hate you, Scott, but I have to put up with you because we're in a band and we're trying to make it type thing.
Right.
So it's just like, that's...
And it was really touching, I think, when he apologized to her at the end.
Right.
You could tell she really, like, her heart kind of softened in that moment.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really good. Who else you got? So is it those 3, but you're going to throw Kim in? Or do you have 2 others?
I'd probably keep those 3.
Okay. Awesome. Kurt.
I hate to say it, but I'm right there with both of you guys.
That's
I
okay.
mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
Like we just went over. I literally would love to see Chris Evans in a comedy. Mm-hmm. Brandon, is it Ralph?
Ralph, yeah.
And again, Ellen Wong. I would love to see her in her own spinoff. I guess if I was to do an honorable mention, I really kind of liked, and I don't even know his name, but the like kid that replaced Scott Pilgrim in the band.
Oh, Neil.
Young Neil.
Johnny
He was
Simmons.
so
John Simmons.
like, he was just,
He's going to break out soon.
he was such a nerd and like played the
Right.
whole like, hey guys, you need me?
Yeah.
You need me now?
What do you play?
I'm
That's
in-
kind of a big question.
Right? Yeah, that's
Like I just feel like he was so sort
the
of
plainest of games.
just a great B character that
Yeah.
I just feel like he kind of got overlooked, you know?
Yeah, I agree. How about for you, Joe?
All right. Ellen Wong,
Yeah.
obviously. Obviously expressed Brie Larson.
Yes.
Okay, as probably my middle of the field here. We talked so highly about him, but dropped off the end.
G-Man.
Jason Schwartzman.
Oh, Schwartzman. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a villain, sure.
As the villain.
Yeah. He deserves
he's
to
a
be
good
in there.
villain.
I respect that. I respect that choice.
That's what I'm saying. As you go through the cast, you just keep sitting there going, "Oh, this guy, this guy."
Oh, wait a
this
second.
person."
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite line was just like, you know how long it took me to put this league together? Like 2 hours.
That's right.
I'll never get that back.
2 hours.
Yeah, he was so mad.
I'm upset that you're just forcing us just to pick 3. You're really pigeonholing us.
Well, it's just because that's what we've done historically. But I this is probably the hardest one of all the movies we've done. Usually it's hard to find 3 people that were good in some of the other movies. But in this one, we've got like 17 people that did great.
I'm
right?
interested in Vandy Man's.
Yeah. So,
Says,
so Vandy, who's your top 3, brother?
Number 3, Wallace Wells. His roommate's solid. He sticks with him.
Okay.
He's an overall good dude.
He is a good dude.
I mean, you know, they share everything, right? I mean, he's always by his side.
And I love one thing I loved about Kieran's performance, and it's a little minor thing, but he's the one that kicks off the whole fighting thing. When he leans in from the balcony, that first scene, he goes, "Fight!" And it's a great moment. Okay, who else you got?
I gotta say, number 2 would be Gideon.
Yeah, Jason
Based on the
Schwartzman.
fact
Thank
that,
you.
I mean, he contacted her 7th grade boyfriend that she dated for a week and arranged this. Think about this. He got all these people together in Toronto, of all places.
And
I mean, the airfare, the coordination. I mean, that's some dedication right there.
I think the fact that he was able to do this in 2 hours is impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
He seemed upset by that, but
I mean, that movie business, it's moving and shaking. And then I got to go with Ramona for number one.
All right, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who, you know what? I appreciate you bringing her up because we spent almost zero time talking about her in this podcast because there's so many great small character parts that they're kind of getting overlooked, I think, but she was great.
And again, I always forget like their names. I'm not always the best with stars, but I remember what else they've been in.
Yeah.
But like I really liked her as the huntress.
Oh, Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was really good in that.
She's great, and she's very underrated just in general. She was in Death Proof. She was great in that movie. She was in the
Gemini Man with Will Smith.
That's it.
Yep.
And season 3 of Fargo. I don't know if you guys have watched that TV show.
No, I have not.
Check it out. Each season stands on its own as its own story, and she did season 3 with Ewan McGregor, and she is incredible in that show too. So she's very underrated. Yeah. Well, those are good picks, Mel. I appreciate that, brother. All right, we're going to get into top 5 quotes, and we'll talk through this. And then, guys, if there's anything that I didn't get in my top 5 that you want to throw in there, I know we've talked about some of them already, but we'll have a chance for you guys to do that as well. So, number 5, this kills me every time I watch this movie. The lead singer, this is right after they played at the Clash of Demon Head, and he asks Ramona if they suck, and she said, "I don't know, do you?" And he goes, "Guys, she has to go. She knows we suck." Like it's a known fact, and she's just figured it out, and so he just says she figured it out. We suck. She has to. We can't be around anymore.
Right.
That's fantastic. So at number 4 was during the garlic bread dinner date when he says, "I could eat garlic bread all the time," and she says, "Yeah, but you'd be really fat." his realization: garlic bread makes you fat.
Yeah.
And it's like hanging out his mouth while he says it. Fantastic line in this movie. Number 3 from Brandon Routh. What? I'm not afraid to hit a girl. I'm a rock star.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. That's a good one.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Like I said, I could have made a top 5 list of just things Brandon Routh said in this movie. But number 2 is from Chris Evans when he brings in his stunt team and he says, "Sometimes I even let him do the wide shots when I feel like getting blazed back in my winnie." He's so good in this. And then number one is that whole sequence when Brandon Routh says, "Don't you talk to me about grammar. You take it up with the cleaning lady on Monday."
Yes, I was just going to bring that up.
Because you'll be pulverized in 2 seconds. And the cleaning lady, she dust. Well, why Monday? Well, it's Friday now, and she has the weekends off, right? It's like his burn got so overly complicated that he had to like explain it, and then burns are terrible at that point. Incredible. That's my top line in the entire movie. Did anyone that I missed that you guys feel like needed to be in the top 5?
Well, we talked about it earlier when you said the first click you're going to hear is me hanging up. The second one is me pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
And that deep voice. I was just like, I want to see this movie. Like, why did that commercial end?
Right. Like, give me the whole trailer at least in the movie, like Tarantino did in Death Proof, right? Where they had those.
Oh, yeah.
Or the double feature with Planet Terror, and they had those fake trailers in the middle. Those were almost better than the movies.
Yeah, I was just like, that's probably a better line than I've heard in an action movie in a long time.
Honestly. And the punctuation of the gun handle hanging up the payphone. I mean, it was just pitch perfect. Anything else, you guys?
I enjoyed, you mentioned it earlier. It's milk and eggs.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good.
No vegan diet, no vegan powers.
I also enjoyed
Chicken Parmesan's not vegan?
the lady dudes comment.
Yeah.
When it was like, "What's up, lady dudes?"
Oh.
I don't know why, but it just made me laugh. And then I also enjoyed, you learned that in Vegan Academy?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was another just fun one that I'll mention every now and then.
Listen, if you knew what you're talking, if you knew the science, maybe I'd listen to a word you have to say. He was so serious about the vegan stuff. And then we find out he ate chicken Parmesan.
What a hypocrite.
What a hypocrite. You know, in my mind's eye, I thought about putting it in here. All right, guys. Well, we've reached almost the end. I want to put one final question out to you guys while we wrap this up, okay? I think this is something I think about almost every time I watch this movie. So maybe I'm weird. If all of the 7 exes fought each other, battle royale style, all 7 of them, who would win? Because, and I think it's important to point out, Scott actually only physically defeats one of them by himself. And all the other ones he either tricks or has helped or tag teamed. And it was just that first guy, the Glass Joe of Matthew Patel. All of these 7 put in a ring together. Who walks out?
Battle Royale style?
Battle Royale. All 7 at once. Not a tournament. Just throw them all in there.
Ooh, that'd be tough.
Vegan powers.
That'd be close. I'd have to go with G-Man, though, myself.
Really? You think Gideon wins?
Well, I think everybody would team up against the toughest opponent, and the toughest person would be the vegan powers, and then he's going to lose out on his powers, or someone's going to throw milk at him or something. Because it's a pretty easy weakness.
Just splash milk in his face.
Touch her behind the knees, and then she bursts.
But would they know the knee trick? Right? Ramona knew the knee trick. Right?
Right.
That's something to consider. And I'm assuming they don't get to bring weapons in, so Gideon doesn't have his sword with him. Right?
Why won't they bring weapons?
Well, because it's just
if
them.
If you're allowed powers, why can't you be...
Well, because you can't take, like, Superman's powers away from himself, right?
You can.
How?
Kryptonite.
Okay, that was maybe a bad example. But
Half and half. Kryptonite, half and half.
Or put him in a ring of lead.
all right, so for you think Gideon.
Yeah, I'd have
Okay.
to go. He was the
mastermind.
ring boss.
He organized it, but does that mean he was the best fighter? Mel, what do you think? Who would win?
I honestly got to say the first guy, Mr. Bollywood, because I tell you what, if you've ever seen a Bollywood action film, every one of them always wins.
That's true. They're indestructible.
Pirates are in this year.
Does he get to bring the demon hipster chicks into the ring with him? Because I think that...
Well, he had mystical powers, so...
He also has mystical powers, so it's not necessarily that vegan guy would be the only one. What do you think, Kurt?
I got to go with Chris Evans. Everything about that, I would love to see. Plus, he had all his stuntmen.
If he gets to bring if everyone gets to bring it, if he's bringing his sword, then Chris Evans gets to bring his stuntmen.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Scott beat them like handily.
Right, but Scott Pilgrim's not in this match.
I know, but just like if Scott did it, then the ones that were always beating up on Scott should be able to.
But nobody actually beat Chris Evans. He fell off of a skateboard in this movie.
He beat himself. That's how good he is.
Right?
Well, technically didn't Brandon with the
every night.
So
half and half.
So before we go to Joe, since you answered what I was going to say, I'm just going to say I agree with you. Chris Evans is who I would pick because he didn't get defeated in this movie. And to this point, we've never seen Lucas Lee lose a fight. So that's why I'm going Lucas Lee.
Sounds good.
How about for you, Joe?
Again, I'm going to stick with vegan powers. I mean, what is Chris Evans going to do? Just skateboard everybody to death?
No, well,
I mean, cool factor, he wins. But actual fighting,
factor.
I don't know, man. I mean, he has the fighting ability. He showed the fighting ability. He showed that he could use a skateboard. He's got a stunt team, but he also could trick you. I mean, he also played that psychological game, right? When he's like, "Oh, that's cool. Oh, come on, let's go get a bear," right?
Yeah.
I'll help him out, and then boom. Just, I mean,
You really are a good actor.
That's what I'm saying. He could play dead in the middle of the fight, and everyone believe him because he's such a great actor. And then he just pop up after everyone else is eliminated.
He was going for the Oscar, so
That's what I'm saying. I think all around.
you're not going to persuade me, though. I still
So you're going with Todd?
Yeah.
He did punch a hole in the moon.
He did.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And did you notice the hole in the moon when they showed the moon before that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's a hole in the moon when it's in the sky earlier in the movie because Todd punched a hole in it for her. These are the things that confuse me about the universe this movie exists in, where people can punch holes in moons and burst into coins. And it's just, Toronto's a weird place.
It is.
You got to have matching hair and handbags. That was the other thing we noticed in the movie.
Yeah.
Her star on her handbag matches her hair color every time
it
she
changes.
it.
Yep.
Like, what are you going to do? Restitch that star on every time? Man, there's a lot of time out in Toronto.
What else do you have to do? There's nothing fun to do in Toronto.
Yeah. Sew bags.
Right? Well, guys, it's been a pleasure having you in with us. Expect to see more of these guys. Now that they're here, they're going to keep coming back. Next week, we're going to be talking about maybe the greatest movie ever made, the cinematic masterpiece that was Cool as Ice, starring Vanilla Ice, the 1991. Well, it should have been in the Oscar race as far as I'm concerned. And it wasn't. It was a travesty. So we're going to talk about Cool as Ice. At the next episode, Clint Bush is going to be back to talk about that. That's all the time we have for Kurt Mummer and Joseph Gorotowski, Mel Vandy, and Josh Servey. This is James Hauser. Thank you for listening, and we'll see y'all real soon. I'm booking a flight to Toronto today.
Gotta get some.
I've been to
coins first.
Toronto. Not good.